Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all amazing. Today on 5-Minute Tones, we're on the latest firmware on the Axe FX3, firmware 21.02, and I want to talk about a few parameters on the amp block speaker page. Before we do, I'm using the USA lead mid-gain. You can see the settings on here. Kind of other trick to this is having the 5-band graphic EQ nice and scooped. My go-to cab IR LTTV Mix 7, basically no low cut and a very gentle high cut at 10K. Going for that kind of, raw mic'd up amp tone that people on YouTube love to talk about, and anyone who's ever recorded real amplifiers and placed them in a mix would know, there's a lot of stuff in there that you're probably going to cut out, but I'm going to leave it in here for this particular clip so we can hear what's going on. Now, the thing that I think kind of sets apart the Fractal component-based modeling is that it's not just about the amplifiers. In the amp block, you have this speaker tab, which takes into account some of the things that speakers and speaker cabinets do. Namely, they're kind of like non-linear dynamic properties in there. So a few things that you might want to try if you really want to get that high gain, sizzly chug thing going on is first, play around with the speaker impedance curve. You can see, even though I'm using this boogie model, I've gone with this 4x12 5153 type. Let's just try, say, a 4x12 recto straight and have a listen to the difference there. Changing the impedance curve is going to change the way the amplifier reacts to that. Well, in this case, it's a virtual load, but if you have a different speaker cabinet or a different load, it does change some of the properties of the amplifier, and you could hear a massive difference in there. There's that girthy, Godzilla-like low-end rumble happening in there. Let's roll with that particular impedance curve, but what's really cool, as you saw here, there's so many different impedance curves to choose from. There's even ones for like the aux and the 2-notes load boxes in here. I think the actual Fractal load box sounds really good. Let's hear the LB2 UK before we go on. Recto straight with this, it's got a thing that I just really enjoy. The next parameter I would play around with on here for this kind of thing is the speaker thump. Let's hear speaker thump at 0, then I'll turn it all the way up to 10, and I'll kind of try to find a sweet spot. This one is basically kind of emulating what happens as you get an amp louder and louder with a cabinet. You all know what I mean if you've ever played a really loud tube amp. Somewhere around 6 or 7 for speaker thump is pretty awesome if you're just playing in here in a room and you want that extended low end. Of course, some of this might be lost once you actually EQ this and place it in a mix. I'll let you hear this in just a little bit with my usual high and low cuts in the cab block, but the last two parameters in here that I think are super powerful are speaker drive and speaker compliance. Speaker compliance is pretty good at the stock setting. I'll let you hear it at 0, but then I like to turn it up to about 60 or 65%. It's kind of like this 3D image thing. Very subtle as all of this is, but let's do that, and then I'll set it up to go at, say, 65, and we'll have a listen to what that does. Finally, speaker drive, I wouldn't actually use much of with a super high gain sound like this. It would be something I'd use with, say, like a vibroverb or an old plexi, but let's just hear speaker drive, say, up at around 4. I think it kind of makes things a little bit too muddy and just grindy sounding on this particular setting. You might like that though, and then I'll just turn it back down to 1. So we'll hear it at 4, and then when I hit enter, we'll hear it at 1. Pretty cool on there. You could hear the speaker compliance was changing again, like the overall image, whereas the speaker drive is having more of an impact on like the texture and the overall tone. Very powerful parameters. If you like the sort of stuff that I've been demonstrating here, I would highly recommend you play around with these. And they're almost going to become set and forget parameters. Once you dial them in for your particular rig and your particular taste, you'll probably find yourself, say, going, like for me, speaker thump between 6 and 7, speaker drive around 1, speaker compliance a little bit above 50%, and then you'll have a favorite impedance curve or two that you use. Now, let's do this. Let's have a listen to all of this. I'll play you all out with the same cab IR, but with the low cut at 80 Hertz and the high cut at 8K. Then you put reverb on, pitch detune, some multi-band compression, some multi-delay in just a second, and you still get the kind of feel. It's just not going to be as accentuated, but so many people out there want to compare amps to modelers. If you're doing that kind of comparison, you really need to consider this particular speaker page on the Axe, or if you're just using your Axe effects to try and get an epic tone, I think these are the parameters that can kind of be that little bit of extra fairy dust on the end result. I'll play you all out with this particular tone. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments section below. And I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching.